Hey guys, what's happening? It is like 3 in the morning on the 20th of January, 2016. I just took a shower. I'm pretty proud of myself. I got out of bed and did that. I'm just not really tired because I went to bed at like 7 p.m. And as you saw, I was pretty much in bed all of yesterday, so I'm up right now. I will get out of the house today. I've got a therapy appointment at 10 a.m. and I plan on hopefully going get a coffee, stay out for a little bit, try to get some sunshine, just feel a little more normal today. And I figured I would go ahead and finish up my story about how I came to be in the situation, what the depression was like, essentially the breakdown that I had. I think on my last video I was up to about November, mid-November or so, when things had gotten really bad. I had attempted to kill myself with a belt, which thankfully was not successful. That is much tougher to do than you might think, which is probably a good thing. I did have a shotgun at one point with slugs that I was going to use on myself. I didn't have either the bravery or the ability to do that, thankfully. So, as we get into the middle of November, near the end of November, I kind of start talking to my family again, my friends, about what's going on. Even though some of the really heavy, I need to commit suicide kind of thoughts were subsiding, I knew that what had gone on with me and what was going on was really a mental breakdown, a serious mental episode. My family began recommending that I go to the hospital, which is probably not a bad idea. I was resistant because I didn't have insurance at the time. I was pretty worried about going bankrupt, essentially going into a psychiatric hospital. I don't have a whole bunch of money, but I have a little bit of money saved, and it's kind of been my only hope as far as feeling like I can kind of rebuild a future if I can get healthy after this. And so I resisted it for quite a bit. I finally began treatment near the end of November with a therapist and a psychiatrist. Being completely honest with them about everything that had happened, they too were really recommending that I go into inpatient treatment, at least for a bit of time to get stabilized, get some medication, really keep myself safe at that time. So really near the end of November, I was kind of coming out of the fog a little bit. I had terrible brain fog. I remember the first therapy appointment I went to, I could barely think. I was really worried that hanging myself may have caused some sort of damage, to be honest, that I had mentally damaged myself, that I had caused myself a brain injury. I didn't know what. I find out now that that is called depersonalization and derealization. I felt like I was out of my own body. I felt like I wasn't myself. I felt like I wasn't even living, that I was just sort of floating through the motions, and that my brain was completely funked. I mean, no energy, no sort of clarity, no ability to think, no ability to reason or make decisions. I remember trying to make decisions about signing up for Obamacare through like the special enrollment period where you can get insurance starting December 1st. And for the life of me, I couldn't even make a decision on it. I could barely grasp what the insurance plans meant, what was best for me, what I should be preparing for, that kind of thing. So I was completely out of it, for lack of a better term. I find out later that this is essentially kind of the rebound from a terrible depression. When you come out of a terrible depression, and typically your first true bipolar experience, you tend to be very disoriented, have brain fog, have trouble thinking clearly. You're just generally not in a good place mentally. And that's where I was. I was really frustrated by it. This was one of the most frustrating aspects of being diagnosed, of the situation, of everything, was not being able to think clearly. I consider myself a fairly intellectual person. I've gone to college, I have a college degree. To not be able to think and to kind of have that taken away from you, and to be wondering at some point, am I going to be able to think again? Am I going to be able to reason with people and have intelligent conversations? I mean, I couldn't even spell correctly. I was typing and, the words weren't coming to me. I couldn't spell. So it was worrisome. I knew at that point, and with the history I've had with suicidal thoughts in the month and a half previous, that it was time to go into treatment. And so early December, I went to the hospital, the emergency room. I told them I was having thoughts of suicide, that I had attempted to kill myself within the last month, and they admitted me pretty much immediately. I stayed in the psychiatric ward of the mental hospital. It's actually a full hospital, but they have a psychiatric center attached to it, basically. I stayed there for a full week. I started medication, mood stabilizers, and I started to feel like I was getting some help, and I was really being honest about what had happened, and fully able to just let a professional know that I was in bad shape. I could probably, and I probably will, make a video about my complete experience in the psychiatric hospital, because there's certainly a lot to say. From the people to the doctors to the way things run in a mental hospital, to not being able to leave, to not having my personal possessions. It was not a fully pleasant experience, but I knew why I was there, and that I needed to be there. I just wanted to be as polite and cooperative as possible and try to work on myself. I got out of the hospital. Now, like I said, I'll explain more about the hospital in another video. It really could be a full video. And I got out of the hospital. I realized that the medication they had prescribed me, Abilify, which is actually an antipsychotic, uses a mood stabilizer, I could not afford. I mean, we're talking like $200-300 a month for the generic version with insurance. I mean, it was nuts. And so I have to go to my psychiatrist quickly after I get prescribed Seroquel. Seroquel was not the medication for me. It may be effective for other people. I don't know. I know it's commonly used. I know for a lot of people they use like the extended release version. I was using at that time 100 milligrams of the instant release version. I used it for about 3 weeks in early December, and I began to again feel terrible. Terribly depressed, terribly out of it, terribly foggy mentally, really disassociated from my own body, my own mind, again, depersonalized, derealized, just really in a bad place with the medication. I felt like the progress that I'd made within the hospital had been completely eroded by this medication that was not working for me, that I was just swinging right back into depression. And prior to that, coming out of the hospital and starting Seroquel, I felt like I'd even had a hypomanic state. Like agitation, really uncomfortable feeling, really strange feeling, like eating everything that I could find. It was odd. I mean, for someone who hadn't really eaten full meals for almost 2 months, I mean, I was eating everything in sight. So back to the hospital. Again, I started to feel extremely suicidal. At this point, I knew that I needed to go back to the hospital and get some different medication and get stabilized again. So prior to the end of the year, I ended up going back to the hospital. This was late December. I get put on different medication, this time Lamictal, lamotrigine. I talk with the doctors again, and they tell me it's kind of a first-line medication for bipolar depression and for the kind of severe mood swings that I was having, from anxiety to intense depression, back to agitation, back to intense depression, etc. And so I end up on lamotrigine, and that is kind of where I'm at now. That second experience in the hospital was not quite as shocking as the first, and it didn't last as long. I felt like I kind of had the routine down at that point. The people even knew me at that point. You're back. I hope you're okay. What's going on? And I explained to them, what was happening. And it was difficult to deal with. I mean, it was tough the second time around. It felt like I was really frustrated. I was really thinking that after that first time in the hospital I was going to be much better, that things were going to improve quickly like they had with previous depressions, previous mental health problems. Unfortunately, that was not the case. And it's part of, I guess, the process of trying different medications, trying to find something that works for you, trying to find what it is that's going to stabilize your mood and allow you a chance to pull out of what you're facing. And so that's what I feel like and hope like, hopefully, Lamictal is doing for me, is helping me to get stable, give me a chance to actually use some abilities to fight depression and move forward. Things were terrible in October, November, like we talked about, but today things are getting better. I do feel like that, though you do see me in bed obviously every other video, and I still suffer from depression. I still fight it every day. I still feel like I don't want to slip back, but at least I can think cognitively now. At least I can see some hope. I can see that with medication I'll actually have an opportunity to get better, and that hopefully this will not be the end of me, the end of my dreams, the end of my ability to work, the end of my ability to live happily. So that's my story, and here's where I'm at now. I'm making videos in an attempt to both help myself and to relate to other people who are struggling with the same thing. I know there are plenty of people out there who are struggling with the same thing. There are some that are in that phase that I was in, where they're actively suicidal. There are some who are in the phase where they're just now learning that they have bipolar, and it's a scary experience. But I want you to know there's somebody else here. Whether you're watching it tomorrow or you're watching it in 5 years, keep holding on. And this is part of the human struggle. Not everybody experiences this, and it's difficult, but I understand those of you who are out there experiencing it. So hold strong. I'm going to try to do the same. I just wanted to finish up my story today in this video. I know it's running a little bit long again, but I thank everybody for watching who's subscribed. I think we're up to 3 subscribers. Hey! And, I just appreciate the comments and any support. And I want you to know that I hope you're getting better out there too. And I hope you're holding strong. And we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.